What's up, everybody? It's Vicious here, and today there's another video about the rapid decline in DNF Duel players, and I don't know. I just wanted to talk about this one just a little bit. I haven't watched the full thing. I just want to see what it says, just to see what people are saying now, because the meta changes with the hate on DNF all the time. They might not even be hating. Let's see. This video is by Daiken FGC, by the way. Excuse me, I just checked. This was made 12 days ago. Let's take a look and see what's happening.
All right, so chat, I told you guys I wanted to get on here and I wanted to talk about DNF Duel, man, because I've been seeing a lot of comments when I play the game and stuff are talking about, how dead the game is, or...
Let's see, 50... I hate these Steam numbers. All-time peak was 12,000. That's not bad, by the way. 12,000, all-time peak for Guilty Gear wasn't like that much more. I think it was like 15,000.
The Steam chart is saying not really that many people playing the game, and some people, just some of it a little bit troll. Some people are just actually empathetic about the game situation and stuff like that. But I just really want to talk about what led to the downfall of DNF Duel.
There's not a lot of empathy on this game.
Now, if you know, there's the huge patch coming out soon that's going to have the balance update along with Spectre, and of course, I think there's been hints that people have been talking about of other characters also coming in the game based on the actual post from the Twitter accounts, which you'll get into the Twitter accounts in just a minute. But talking about what led to the early downfall of DNF Duel, I think there's a couple of things here. But yeah, the game's been talked about positively lately because of the actual stuff that's coming soon, and hopefully this can help the game maintain more people playing it. Just maintain a consistent player base is something that the game actually needs right now. The game definitely needs some sort of consistency as far as its player base, rather than...
I agree with what he's saying right now. We do need consistency. The most consistent player base is on Steam. I've been on PlayStation, and it could take up to like an hour to find somebody. I did hear that a lot of the top players are actually either doing ranked or going to private rooms, which, that kind of makes sense. That's why you don't see them, and that's why you don't see people, because you cannot check on ranked from player match. All right, and that's all I do, but I don't know. But on Steam, it can take up to like 15 minutes to get somebody in the room, and I wish there was a practice mode to keep you less bored while playing the game, but, it is what it is. Hopefully that's in another patch.
Dwindling numbers that we constantly see so far. So hopefully with the balance update, it shakes the meta of what characters people see on the screen a little bit more, even though, when you look at these top 8, they're pretty diverse, but of course people just want to see more things, probably see, probably some characters that get a little bit more or less under represented, probably like some launchers or like some grapplers and top 8. You see
Grappler is fine. Like, the reason why you don't see Grappler, well, actually, I've had conversation with Jax Vex, who uses Launcher, and he actually introduced me to the best Grappler from Europe. I think it was from the UK, and that Grappler was actually winning a couple of tournaments or getting top 5, top 8, something along those lines. Jax Vex could tell you better than I could, but I did fight that Grappler. He was good and made me change my mind about how crazy this character can get. So, I mean, we do see diversity. Jax Vex was just in the top 8 with Launcher. Do we want to see more? Sure, but that would require people to actually stop shitting on the game, get on the game and play it, and actually just enjoy the game instead of going to the game, playing with Launcher, complaining about how bad she is, then going to fucking get beat up by Ramlethal on Guilty Gear Strive or some shit.
A little bit. Probably like Lost Warrior, even though we just saw Lost Warrior, but you really don't see that character too much, and a few other characters that you probably don't see that much. People want to see a shake up in sort of the meta of the characters you see majority.
And I don't know this dude, by the way. I'm not trying to be a dick towards this dude. I'm just saying that it differs depending on who you ask.
The other time on the screen when it comes to these tournaments. So we're going to talk about the early downfall of DNF. We got to start at the very beginning. When this game first released, there was no real announcements for the future of this game. There was no DLC announcements for this game.
The base roster is still one more than what they had in Guilty Gear, and each one of these characters, if you have a character to compare them to from Guilty Gear, they have more of a moveset. I hate to keep making these comparisons to Guilty Gear, because I know I'm going to get ratio because it's the grandfather anime fighter, but if we're going to be honest here, this game gave us back a lot of stuff that Guilty Gear Strive took out, which Strive is a good game on its own. I do like Guilty Gear Strive, but if we look at the ninja, Kunoichi has more moves than Chip, and the utility that she has is more unique than Chip too. Chip is just a cross-up machine with some command grabs, right? That's how I see him in Guilty Gear Strive, and he's high execution, and I feel like she has a decent amount of execution too. But overall, I feel like you can play her in several different ways. Whereas like in Chip, you're really you're pigeonholed into like doing like a couple of different things, but not like as many as Kunoichi. Which that's the argument that I love having so much is what people are switching to. They're getting either less options or they're just getting a different type of game. Like you could say you want to go to Melty Blood, and that's completely fine. Melty Blood has some cool, interesting combos, just like this game. The only difference is the speed of movement and the aerial movement, which I understand if you like that. But you can't sit here and be like, oh, well, this game is bad, and now I'm going to play Street Fighter 6 beta and pretend like all this shit don't exist in DNF already to some capacity. Like that drive dash that people do to extend combos, hey, why don't we just do conversion or just do a regular ass combo? That's the way I see it. I'm not hating on Street Fighter 6. I'm just saying, like, people are acting like games that have the same shit as DNF, just like outclass it in every way. And that's just what happened earlier on. From my perspective, people were saying that, oh, all we see is Swiftmaster and Crusader and, Hitman to a lesser degree. Then the patch happened and all you see is Hitman and Striker. It's ridiculous.
And unfortunately, in this sort of environment that we are in the FGC, we are sort of we expect to see some sort of announcements for the future of the game, some sort of like at least
That's
a
true.
roadmap or some DLC, some battle pass or something that we can buy, some season pass that we can buy in advance to know that there is a future for this game. And that's just something that just wasn't there. There was very...
It's funny that, we do have that narrative where it's like, oh, we got to have a pass, but that's to me, it's silly, and this isn't towards him, this is just towards the people. Like, it's silly that we've gotten to this point in fighting games where we just, like, have to have a pass to give us a peace of mind that a game is worth playing. That's ridiculous. Like, bro, Tekken 3, people still want to play Tekken 3. I just seen people asking for Tekken 3 to be ported to PS4 and PS5, like, within the past year. You mean to tell me that game with no DLC, with no balance patch, really is being asked for at this point in time, for the current gen consoles, and they have this to say about DNF? Like, yeah, I get it. It has to do it. Like, everybody's doing it, and they are doing it from what I can see with the DLC character coming up, but it's just such a silly reason to leave a game, Like, Skullgirls didn't have DLC for years. Motherfuckers were still playing that game, It didn't have, like, all right, so when I first started playing Skullgirls, it took like a year, maybe like a year and a half for them to add Squiggly, maybe 2 years. She was the first DLC character. I stayed on that game. A lot of people stayed on that game for months, but I know that wasn't the era where DLC was like, oh, prevalent. Of course, it took a couple more games after Skullgirls, but even after Second Encore, when there was no DLC for a long ass time, people still played that game. So I just don't like that excuse. It's just kind of silly. Like, the game has one of the best art styles in the business right now, and has some of like the coolest combos that you can get per character. I stop waiting for DLC. Play the game and get better, because most of the people that say that the game didn't have any DLC or wasn't going to be supported actually don't know shit about playing the game.
Little word from the developers when it came to stuff like that. There was a lack of that sort of communication between the supporters and the developers when it came to exactly what was going on. Of course, there's some other contributors there as well. Of course, there's IP being not the biggest here, I feel like, in the States for sure, and probably not that matters outside of like Korea, because it's definitely a
I don't think that matters. Persona wasn't like that popular back in the day. It just recently surged to popularity within like the past I want to say decade, because of Persona 5's popularity. Then people went back and bought Persona 4. Even though Persona 4 previously was like the most popular, it did like a mil when it came out. That's something that's great, but Persona 4 Arena still did like it went multi-platinum. It did like multi-millions in sales, and Ultimax I think hit like not the same numbers, but still did better than like vanilla Persona 4. Like, I don't know if that's necessarily like what makes a difference or not either, because you know what I mean. That Persona 4 Arena got popular, and in turn made the previous game more popular. I think DNF Duel maybe did a little bit of the same too.
Korean MMO game, very popular over there. Now, there's some people that actually know and play this game and heard about it and stuff like that. But this is not really a big IP over here, so they probably wouldn't
It's
expect
still a huge IP
too much
though.
from this side. But that also led to a really another big downfall, which we're going to talk about, which was the marketing for this game. The marketing for DNF Duel left a lot to be desired for because of how they actually did it. So if you don't know, they have their Twitter account.
I'm gonna see what he says.
And then
I'm not
they
gonna
had
watch
their
the whole
YouTube.
thing.
So we got an announcement for the game just randomly, and we didn't hear anything about it for a year. And then a year later, they resurged with another trailer saying, "Hey, this game basically still being worked on, showcasing the characters once again." We got the beta and stuff like that. But when you notice,
I like how we're like just going over the beta.
things on the Twitter, a lot of it was basically Korean, and then we were like almost like a second class citizen when it came to the knowledge.
Okay, so here's the thing. I don't care about the language. Like that's what Google is for. You know, and some of those you could actually translate on your phone itself. Like it's not that big of a deal to me. Like I get it. The patches, like they should have been better about that. But you could find that stuff on Facebook. And as per usual, when patches are in a different language, they get translated eventually. But I like to go back to the beta bit because he said the marketing for the game wasn't that good. I want to say that's bullshit because I was I want to say the main motherfucker, honestly. Like I got up, I went to work. I remember posting each video for each character that was being that had a trailer made for it, like every week, bro. Like every week. I remember it was like every Wednesday. Then I think it changed to every Thursday at like 9 or 10 o'clock, something like that. I would get up, get that video going. I would get a lot of views off that shit actually, and other people did too. And they just kept doing, like, the only thing I would say about the marketing is they should have did like real combos instead of doing that weird shit that they were doing. But they had trailers for their characters, and we had a beta, and we had a second beta, and we had more trailers for characters leading up to the release. I think the marketing was fine. People were talking about it. Okay, people were saying they had fun, and then I don't know
About the game, we weren't really properly addressed, and usually they were using ArcSys as the second tell to basically let us get the information that we needed about the game. A lot of the stuff on their Twitter was basically in Korean, and the only way to get the information in English was either by ArcSys or in their community post by YouTube. And a lot of people don't just randomly go through the community post section on a YouTube page, or sometimes you may miss it because it's just not there. The marketing for this game was very different compared to when you think of a game like Guilty Gear Strive, right? Where there's big marketings as far as like how they do things. They got the hashtags like everywhere that they try to do things. They got the VTubers involved in for the game for the beta and stuff, and this game probably had like
they got Maximilian involved in DNF Duel like right before launch, bro.
There's actually a trial for the game on PlayStation Plus that you can have. I think it's 2 hours. Is it 2 hours, chat? You could do like 2 hours for the game, and nobody really they don't really talk about that like that. Like there's just a lot of things that they really didn't promote.
You can do a trial through a lot of games on PS Plus. I don't think you really need to talk about it. I don't know a company that has talked about the trials yet. To be all the way honest with you, because I upgraded my membership because like it was like $20 extra. And I'm like, well, that's kind of like the price of an indie game. But I upgraded my membership, and I was like, I didn't know these games even had trials. I thought it was supposed to be every game coming to PlayStation after a certain point.
Promote for this game that could have helped either sales wise or retention wise and stuff.
What are the sales? Because I hate that we keep talking about this game failing, and like the first 2 months, like I couldn't keep people out of my lobby quick enough. You know what I mean? Like if I made a lobby for 8 people and I wanted a friend to join to an open lobby, motherfuckers would just be in my lobby. That's just how it was when the game first came out on PlayStation and on PC. And I would say that would mean that sales were pretty decent, because anytime you have that type of amount of people coming in and that quickly, it means that people have bought the game and they're playing it a lot.
That just was not there. Now, this next thing I got to put in here, because I was gaslighted for saying this before, but of course it comes back to pass, right? So the lack of content in this game, man, I feel like is definitely a contributing factor. The lack of content, and we're going to talk about the character balancing in just a second, but the lack of content, this game doesn't have that much stuff inside of it, man. It's just the single player mode. You have like a time trial, like trial mode or something like that.
Arcade, survival, story, mode, free battle.
And then there.
So I just want to point something out here. Tekken has arcade, treasure battle. I don't even think Tekken has survival anymore. Excuse me 1 second. Sorry, it's been a while since I actually looked at Tekken's menu and like actually memorized it. But Tekken has story mode. This is offline, by the way. You have story mode, you have arcade mode, you have treasure battle, and you have practice, right? And then there's customization, and then Tekken Bowl. So this game has like one less mode. This is like $10 less than what Tekken costed when it came out, by the way. It's $50 in North America.
It's a time trial or like survival mode. And then there is just online, right? So there's really not much there. The single player mode is just like the stories. If you don't care
and a tutorial, Tekken don't got that.
You sort of just did one just to unlock Lost Warrior, and that was pretty much it. So there's really not much there.
Why don't you just play the game again, like, and see how the other characters react? Like, it's always interesting to see what people think about, like, arcade mode and story mode when they say that a game doesn't have content. And then, like, you know, when they talk about the content that they think is just little, you know, it's like, oh, you just play once and you don't go back to it. So what the fuck are you doing with the other things? Like, are you actually playing survival? Why don't you just go to free battle and fight as much as you like? That's my feelings on it as an adult. Like, I used to enjoy survival mode and time attack on Tekken, like the earlier Tekkens, you know, when there was no online and there wasn't shit to do. But, you know, at this day and age, I'm just sort of like, whatever. You know, that's why Melty Blood never bothered me. Melty Blood type Lumina has like less modes than DNF Duel, I think.
It's always stressed, and like I said, I made a video about this talking about why certain fighting games do not do well, and I was talking about how these fighting games need.
People always say dead game, talking about rap. I think he's wrong about this because BB Tag may not have had like a lot going on for it, but BB Tag also had like a hate campaign going on for it. You remember the game was $50 when it came out, and they said they're gonna add like 50 characters of DLC, or like no, not 50 characters of DLC, have at least 50 characters in the game. That got leaked before the game came out, and everybody was like, this is unacceptable. You're going to make me pay for all these characters. And then the game ended up being like $20 for all the characters that they added, basically. Then they added more characters after that. The reason why BlazBlue Tag died out really quickly is because there was a hate campaign behind it. People made people feel bad for playing it. They say nothing but, what was it? Cosplayers, or what the fuck did they call those people that were dancing in the lobbies? They called those people lame, and honestly they just didn't like the game because of their characters being different than what they were in the previous games. I don't think that's a good reason to say that the game died out. Like, if you're gonna say that, then you need to give me a reason why BlazBlue Central Fiction and Chrono Phantasma didn't sell 2 million copies, because those games died out quickly. And I don't want to hear from anyone else. Like, I was in the trenches for Central Fiction. I got the Hong Kong version. I played that the practice mode until that game came out. I got the Hong Kong version, and I bought that game a second time, the English version. And that game was cool until 2 months later, when it went from having 63 people in the lobbies to having like 5 people in the lobbies. And like, then you just gotta fucking sit there and be like, oh man, what do I do? That's just kind of how it was with Central Fiction. A lot of people forget this, but Central Fiction has a lot of modes, and so did Chrono Phantasma. Tekken Tag 2 had more modes than Tekken 7, but, you know, nobody wants to talk about that or explain that to other people. I just think that's a little ridiculous.
To have better packages when it comes to the content in it. You look like a game like Street Fighter V. That is a good package. Look at what you're getting for Street Fighter V right now. You're going to be able to play old.
Hey, let me be honest with you. This shit from Street Fighter V looks stupid. It looks bad to me. Like, I don't buy fighting games to do this, and nobody else does. Otherwise, people would have complained about not having the car that you beat up from like Street Fighter 2, or was it Street Fighter 3 and Street Fighter 4. I disagree with this take. I think that it's nice to have this stuff, but it's like Tekken 6. Tekken 6 has scenario campaign. I bet nobody has good memories of scenario campaign, only bad shit. I know I don't have any good memories.
Street Fighter 2 and stuff like that. They got game modes inside of the game mode. So like they have like the danger modes or whatever. I forget exactly what they're called. Where like there's bulls running at you and stuff like that. Like these little mini game modes inside of the.
Yeah, that reminds me of Mortal Kombat. Like how Mortal Kombat has like a ton of extra content, but like nobody seems to care about it. Like the tower, nobody likes that shit that I know. Let me skip this a little bit.
That's possibly coming to the game as well. There's just a lot there for the complete full package of the game. Now, of course, DNF Duel was only $50 when it came out, but still, for the packages you're getting, the game really wasn't worth the price point, man. It really was not worth it. And of course, there was some.
Okay, it wasn't worth it because it didn't have like 1,000 modes. That's people need to stop being ridiculous with fighting games. Like Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, it technically had a lot, but that mode wasn't good. Like, the side-scrolling mode where you have to fight different things and you actually have RPG light elements. That mode wasn't that great, and I don't see many people playing that shit. People don't want to play that shit. When a DLC came, nobody wanted to get back on that shit to get like the extra extra colors or extra weapons. So I don't think that's a valid, like, you know what I mean? That's just me though.
Regional price.
Because who honestly gets on Grand Blue Fantasy Versus and still plays that? If you can answer me honestly that you get on Grand Blue Fantasy Versus or you get on Tekken 7 and you play Treasure Match, Treasure Battle, whatever the hell it's called. You play Treasure Battle, even though you have all your stuff. Like, I need to know. I need to know why. I need to know how often you do it in contrast to just playing online.
Price things as well. People were talking about where the game was like much higher in other places around the world, but the game has multiple sales now, so probably that's not really going to be.
The game could still have multiple sales. It could be 50% off, but as long as in Southern America or Central America, that shit, I don't know how much it was, but let me just paraphrase. Let me just say that to us, the game was $50, but to them, that shit was like $80 or something like that, right? If the game is 50% off, it's still $40 to them. You know what I mean?
Like the contributing factor now,
even though that's still like that's not that bad of a price.
But I guess if you weren't going to play the game then and you heard the bad word of mouth back then you're probably not going to play the game now, right? So if the word of mouth was good back then and then the sales happened, then probably things would be different, but it definitely wasn't. And talking about the character balancing for DNF Duel,
let's talk about
obviously this game was developed to be a high character power level game, and the characters are absolutely nuts in this game as far as the things they could do. But of course,
Striker.
When this game first came out, there were definitely some characters that were slightly above the rest. We're talking about Swift Master, we're talking about Hitman, and like, the crazy things they were able to do. Striker as well with the infinite stuff like that, the block string infinite. But
Crusader
did tone some of that stuff down, but probably a little too late, right? People got
a little too late. I hate this narrative too, and I hate to just like, I'm not trying to be a dick towards this dude. It's just I hate that narrative because what the fuck? Like, what do you expect the devs to do within like a month? Like that is the era we're in, and it kind of disgusts me. Like, it depends. If you're playing a game, an anime fighting game that people already have a hate boner for, and you don't patch the character to be mid, you're gonna look, if you patch the character to be mid, you're gonna piss all the people that play with the character off. They're gonna stop playing the game and say the game sucks. And if you patch the character a little bit, people are gonna be like, just like what they did with this game, they're gonna say the game isn't good because they didn't patch it well enough, and we're mad because that was a dumb patch. That's basically what happened after the game was patched. And the game was patched within 2 months, if I remember correctly. And then the game came out in June, right? I think it was patched when? So it was patched. All right, so June, July. I think it was patched in August, maybe. And then in September, they said we're going to have a big patch in December, plus a special announcement. Within 3 months of the game being out, they fucking winked and nudged at us and said that, hey, I know, we understand. We're going to patch this game really big in December. We need some time. And everybody just keeps saying this type of bullshit that I can't get behind because it's just silly. Like, dude, it's unreasonable for you to think that they're going to patch the best characters in the game to be mid or to be acceptable to you within fucking like 2 months. And they still patch the characters a little bit.
Tired of seeing these characters, and they were just very, very strong, and they weren't that difficult to use. Now, this game,
stop playing with those characters in. Like, that's what I would say to the people that, some of those people don't play the game anymore, by the way. But I would say maybe stop playing with those characters so much and irritating people. Like, you got to understand, like, the shit you're doing is irritating. It's like Marvel vs. Capcom 3. The shit people do to each other in that game is irritating, Like, but if the player base was low, I would actually take the L and just say, you know what, let me pick someone else. I do that. Like, I recently picked up playing Troubleshooter a couple weeks ago. When I found somebody that was like a bronze or silver player, I started playing with Troubleshooter because I don't know how to play with them like that. I'm not finna fucking destroy you with Ghost Blade.
Is definitely on one of the more easier sides to play. There's definitely stuff people are still figuring out about the game, but at the level at the current time, those strategies that people were using were strong enough to where people got tired of the game really, really quickly.
Then why did nobody drop Marvel vs. Capcom 3 when Dark Phoenix was like one of the most broken characters ever?
There were things you could do to try to combat them, but it was difficult to actually get those strategies going and to try to implement them inside your game plan. Like, some of these characters just didn't have a good time doing it. You look at characters like Lost Warrior or Launcher or Grappler versus some of these characters when they
Grappler is a good character. That's people say Grappler is a bad character. Grappler can kill you in like 2 hits.
It was a hard time for some of these characters, man. And even though some of these characters were definitely okay in their own regard, like Berserker and say like Kunoichi.
Berserker is considered like A+ tier. Kunoichi is too, bro. I wouldn't say that that's okay. Like, that implies that they're B tier. Those characters are like A tier characters. Like, Kunoichi's tech traps are crazy. Her pressure is crazy. You know what I mean? And Berserker also has some bullshit where he like instantly overheads you or lows you, and he can loop you. And he's another 2-touch character. He touches you twice, done for. If he has the right confirms.
Versus the top 3 that you've seen all the time, it was just hard to get around these. Some of them have some decent matchups and stuff like that, but it was just, you're gonna fight a gauntlet of these characters because of how easy this game is to play compared to like some other games.
I want to go ahead and say that also, nobody really gave the game a chance to like, be out and like actually learn the strategies. Like, Crusader irritated me. I still think Crusader is one of the best characters in the game, but I have strategies against him. They're rough and they're hard to execute, but there's strategies against him with several different characters.
And honestly, I think the other thing that left a sour taste in people's mouth was the fact that this patch that we got, the initial patch, was hinted at to be like some big revolution-changing patch for the game, and basically it just touched like 3 characters, right?
I never heard that it was going to be a big revolutionary patch. I heard it was going to be a big patch, but the thing is, when a patch is mentioned to be big, that could be anything between characters getting new moves and like the entire game changing, to characters having moves actually repurposed to fit different scenarios that they don't normally fit. Like, for instance, or like just to adjust some things that a character can't use anymore in certain scenarios. Like Striker here, reduce guard stun after second strike from Rising Fist. So basically, when she did her uppercut, she was able to stun lock you, block stun you into 5M, and she couldn't do that anymore. Like, that's kind of a big change for her, because fuck her, she already can break your guard in 2 combos, bro. Like, she doesn't need that shit. That's ridiculous. Magnum Salt, reduce the time unable to tech during the charge effect version. Right, so you could tech out quicker now. That means that's what they tried to do to get rid of the infinite. You can still do the infinite, but it's way tighter. It's like if you do the infinite, then you fucking deserve it type situation. Grappler had an infinite. It's kind of a big thing that they took it out. I don't think they really did much to Hitman. Like, Hitman's hard to nerf. Swiftmaster, they nerfed Swiftmaster enough to the point where Swiftmaster players stopped playing them.
It was just like some
That's pretty
slap on the
big.
wrist for two of them, Hitman and Striker, and Swiftmaster got touched actually a little bit. But there was
He
no
got
like
touched a
real
little bit.
big changes. People thought this was going to be a patch that was going to shake the meta of the game for real. Like, there's going to be some launch.
This patch was 2 months out from fucking launch, bro. If you honestly thought that they were going to flip the game on its head within 2 to 3 months, you're an idiot. I will tell anybody that. You're an idiot. They didn't even do that shit on Guilty Gear Strive, bro.
Launcher buff.
They didn't do that shit to Guilty Gear Strive until, like, season 2 started, right? When they did that fucking dash cancel fucking mechanic shit, where they actually added a whole nother mechanic.
Vanguard buffs, some Lost Warrior buffs, and like tone down some of these other characters and make the game try to be as evenly as possible, as all balancers try to do at the very least. That was not the case, man. So a lot of people were disappointed, and
look at this crazy meta I'm seeing.
The same people are hoping for some new things. Because when you talk about patches, people, even though people want
who's
to
playing
see
that Ghostblade? Is it him?
They also want new tools to discover with their characters.
Because he's not playing them right.
Felt like because this game pretty simple that it was pretty much figured out. Even though, like I said, people do find a lot of things with some of these characters a lot more. Like I've been seeing a lot more like Berserker stuff. And there's like a lot more like striker optimizations and stuff.
It's almost as if you don't drop the game and still play the game and see and go to practice mode and figure out what the characters can do and use it on people, that the game seems like it has a lot of depth. And saying that a character can't be X, Y, or Z character because they're easier to use or because they're stronger is like a silly fucking notion if you're not going to try and like practice.
And seeing going around and a few other characters and stuff like that, a few Kunoichi setups and stuff. So there is other things that people obviously are going to find over time, but for the majority of the part, these other characters, regardless of the tech, were still in the placings that they were. I think that about cover everything, right, chat? I think we talked about like mainly the most big.
I think I want to stop this video because one is going on too long on my end. In all honesty, like I said, I hope this doesn't come across as like disrespectful towards this dude in particular. I just think that he's wrong. I think that this is like totally like there's some things that he's right about, but I do think that because people have like this hate narrative towards the game, that no, like they're kind of, it's kind of like in an area where it's like, yeah, I can't tell what could have made this game successful because it seemed like people were just going to hate it no matter what. They told us there was going to be a big patch and they were going to have a surprise for us like 3 months in. The game plays fine. There are some things that need to be adjusted 100%. I understand, and they're getting adjusted. I looked at the balanced patch notes. I talked about the balanced patch notes. But the game was still fine. It was still fun. If you could play this game, if you could play Guilty Gear Strive and be fine with Nagoriyuki being as strong as he is, or Happy Chaos having like pretty much unlimited pressure because of the bullet shit that he can do, you can play this game and be happy that people aren't playing with Swiftmaster anymore and that new tech is being discovered for every character all the time. I can't believe the amount of new tech that I've discovered for DNF Duel and from people that play DNF Duel. Like launcher setups, Berserker setups for everybody in the entire game, bro. It's crazy how much tech that you see and is actually applicable to a lot of situations. Like, it's not like Strive where you get on Strive and you look at the Twitter and it's like, hey, look at this scenario where Soul can side switch 3 times. It's totally impractical because you gotta you gotta get this RC canceled just right and do a RC at the right time here, almost like what's the word for it? Not perfect frame, but just frame, almost like a fucking just frame. Like that shit is cool, but like I like the stuff that people are actually going to do in a match, and honestly, I see that a lot while playing people. I'm amazed. I'm like, damn, that comboed, damn, that comboed. But anyway, yeah. I thought it was a good and entertaining video. I do disagree with some things, but also at the same time, there's some things that I agree with that I just think are bullshit because people just hate the game just for the sake of hating it. And you guys know how I rock on here. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. Later.